allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please. Councilmember Conley?
Present.
Councilmember Losi?
Here.
Councilmember Mobley?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson?
Here.
Mayor Trent?
Here.
Okay, there's no one here to accept the proclamation for tonight, so we'll just send that to them. Our next item is oral comments from the public. Anybody from the public that would like to speak? You have 3 minutes.
Hello, Mayor, City Council, Chief, City Manager, everybody. My name is James Graham. I'm Vice President of River Life Foundation. Our last 2 cleanups, we've cleaned up 4,000 pounds of trash in Fortuna and returned 30 shopping carts, which brings our total to 494,000 pounds of garbage we've cleaned up out of the Eel River Valley. And on Saturday, we joined the Kiwanis to clean up on the railroad tracks, on the bluff above the railroad tracks. And we helped them. Our part was like 1,200 pounds we cleaned up. And I'd just like to say I'm really proud of you guys. The chief here, the Fortuna Police Department is awesome. City manager, really proud to be a citizen of this town. And we're going to keep doing our part to clean this town up. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other oral comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll close public comment. Next, we have consent items. We have 2 or 3 items on the consent calendar: City Council minutes, report of disbursements, and consider approving a supplemental budget request for rollover for fiscal year 2023 funds to 2024. Anybody want to pull any? Nope.
I'll move to approve the consent calendar.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Okay, moving on to city business. Our first item is public hearing, second reading, and adoption of ordinance 2023-762, amending Title 15, Building and Construction of the Fortuna Municipal Code, adding Chapter 15.48, Construction and Demolition Debris Diversion, CD3. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Mayor Trent. We have Matt Nyberg. He's going to present this. I think this will be the 4th time that it's come to the council.
Yeah.
So we've been through this a few times, and I think we've gotten to the point where we'll be able to wrap this one up. So,
We'll
thanks,
keep it
Matt.
pretty short. So pretty much in a nutshell, anybody that gets a building permit in the city of Fortuna has to put forth a waste management plan at the end of their project. They need to show that they recycled, reused, or repurposed 65% of their waste. That's basically what the ordinance mandates. The nice part about that is we have to report to the state each year how we do, and that show that we recycle 65% of the waste, and this way we can track it and report it easily at the end of the year. So staff recommends that the second reading be accepted by title only, and that we adopt ordinance 762.
Okay, any questions from council? No? Anybody from the public have a comment on this item? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. We have a motion?
I'll make a motion to hold the second reading and adopt ordinance 2023-762 and read by title only.
Second.
Roll call, please.
I'll read it by title. Ordinance 2023-762, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Fortuna adding Chapter 15.48 to the Title of 15 of the Fortuna Municipal Code, Construction and Demolition Debris Diversion Ordinance, CD3. Councilmember Conley?
Aye.
Councilmember Losi?
Yes.
Councilmember Mobley?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson?
Yes.
Mayor Trent?
Yes. Okay, our next item is public hearing. Consider the adoption of an amendment to the building department fees previously adopted for fiscal year 2023-24, adoption of resolution 2023-29. Staff report.
Thank you, Mayor Trent. We have Matt Nyberg one more time, and these are really just the fees that accompany the ordinance that was just approved.
Right, so as a result of adopting this ordinance, there are some fees that are included, and we need to incorporate them into the 2023-24 fiscal year budget. This recommends that we amend the budget to include the fees for the qualifying projects. The average homeowner that does a remodel or does a build doesn't necessarily need to pay a fee. They just need to show that they recycle. However, if you're a qualified project, that's projects over 1,000 square feet or $200,000, you will need to pay administrative fee of $175. Takes a lot of work to track this stuff. Qualifying residential projects will require a $500 deposit, which can be returned to them once they demonstrate they've done their part in the recycling. Qualifying covered non-residentials deposits will be the greater of 1/4% of the project cost, or $500. Other fees that might be incurred are for appeals. People can appeal the decision by the building official, and at a staff level appeal is a $250 fee, and a council appeal is a $500 fee. So staff recommends that we amend the 2023-24 fiscal year budget to include the fees for ordinance 762 CD3.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Okay.
How are we going to notify, or when are we going to notify contractors of these additional fees? When they put in their, for plan review, or?
It is part of your initial package when you have to do a waste management plan.
It'll be on the checklist? Okay.
You do need to. And we've been doing this for, I think, since February.
Okay.
So it's not totally new, but it's new in as far as a requirement.
Right, so we've been doing the work, but we've been tracking it and requiring the waste management plan, but not assessing a fee.
Right, yes, sorry. Yeah.
Any other question from the council? Open public hearing. Any questions from the public? Seeing none, we'll close public hearing. We have a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 2023-29, amending the building fees, and read by title only.
No, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Resolution 2023-29, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Fortuna amending the city's annual fee schedule for fiscal year 2022-2023 to provide the new construction and demolition debris diversion security deposit fees. Councilmember Conley?
Aye.
Councilmember Mobley? Oh, sorry. Councilmember Losi?
Yes.
Councilmember Mobley?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson?
Yes.
Mayor Trent?
Yes. Okay, our next item is public hearing, transit needs assessment.
Thank you, Mayor Trent. Aaron Family has taken this on. Normally, this would be an item for the Parks Director, but right now, Aaron's been assisting to help with some of the transit items. So hand it over to Aaron. I think we have Stevie from HCOG online also.
Yeah, so good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council. So this is an annual item that the City Council performs, and it's part of the Transportation Development Act, which states that the Humboldt County Association of Governments, or HCOG, as the regional transportation planning agency, that they hold a transit needs assessment public hearing for the purposes of evaluating the best method of providing public transportation. It's our local policy for HCOG to additionally request each member entity to hold a public hearing on transit needs. And so that's what this hearing is for tonight. So as Merritt mentioned, we do have Stevie Luther on, who is ready and available to do a short little presentation. And then once that concludes, staff's recommendation is to hold a public hearing concerning the transit needs assessment and forward all public comment received to the Humboldt County Association of Governments. So Stevie, when you're ready.
Great. Thank you, Aaron, and good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Stevie Luther. I'm the Associate Planner for HCOG. And I do just want to take the opportunity to give a short presentation on how transit is serving the community and the services that we have right now. So go through the state of regional transit. This is what I'll cover. And there are quite a few numbers and charts in the first half that I'll just go through quickly, and then we'll get into some exciting new developments. So as Aaron was describing, this is a hearing to determine the use of local transportation funds. And I've just highlighted the amount that Fortuna has received in the last 2 fiscal years, and the amount that goes towards streets and roads purposes. So the Humboldt Transit Authority is the largest transit provider, and these are some numbers of how many passengers are being served, the Jack Pass users, monthly pass users, and the total fare revenue and operating expenses. This is a view of the most recent ridership information over the last 4 years, and you can see the sharp drop due to COVID, and that ridership is recovering. Similar story for Arcata and Mad River Transit in Arcata, and as well as the Fortuna Transit. So these slides are just to show some of the performance metrics that are used to evaluate transit. This first one is the fare box return ratio, which is used to determine whether a transit need is reasonable to meet. You can see the performance over the most recent year. This is another performance metric for operating subsidy per passenger trip, just showing that Eureka Transit is the most effective, and some of the other services that go over a longer distance have a higher operating subsidy. This is another standard that can be used to assess effectiveness and productivity, the ridership per vehicle service hour. And this metric is also showing improvement over the most recent year, and it's something that we can use to track how productive a system is. So going into some of the new things that are happening with regional transit, but the HTA is leading a co-branding exercise to brand transit as Ride Humboldt. This will have the advantage of kind of making it easier for people to transfer between different lines, and just easier in general to go between these different services. And part of that is this using fare capping and being able to tap to pay with a credit card validator. Anything that has the wireless symbol, you can just tap as you board. And for the next 2 hours, it will only charge you $2. So you just use the same card to tap when you transfer onto a different service. And that's a fair discount, and just makes it a lot easier to switch between these different services that sometimes have different fares. There's also a $50 flat rate for a regional all services monthly pass, which is a great value. Another exciting development is microtransit. It's kind of like an Uber or a Lyft for public transit. And the dial-a-ride system that is the paratransit provider will be opening to the public on a pilot run within the Eureka area. And it's really as easy to use as creating an account on a smartphone app or logging into a website and requesting a ride. It will be there in around 15 minutes or so. For the pilot, they'll be picking up at existing bus stops, but the hope is to expand this into different service models with pilots in Samoa, in McKinleyville, and potentially as well in Fortuna. These are a few of the newer transit services that have started this year. Arcata has started the Green and Gold route, which is providing half-hour service from Valley West to the Cal Poly campus. And then the Yurok Tribe Transportation Department is doing an Orleans to Hoopa to Willow Creek service. Also coming up in January of 2024, the Redwood Coast Express will be providing direct service from Eureka to Ukiah, which will be an interregional connection for people to get from here to connect all the way down to Sonoma and the Bay Area and fill in that gap in service. So just a few of the known transit needs that we hear very often throughout this process and other public engagement is for more frequent service, for buses to come, every half hour, every 15 minutes, ideally. We also hear requests for Sunday service and for later night service on Friday and Saturday on the Redwood transit system. Those two have been determined to be unmet needs that are reasonable to meet, so we're working to fund those. And another one we hear often is earlier and later service on RTS and ETS, basically restoring it to the schedule pre-COVID. That one is scheduled to happen, and we are just looking for drivers and looking to hire bus drivers. So HTA does have openings and encourage folks to look into that and apply. And then here's my contact info. We do have an online survey at that link. You can also find us at the HCOG project page or scan that QR code. And comments are accepted until December 31st and will be incorporated into this year's report. So that concludes my presentation. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from council? Nope. Open public hearing. Anybody from the public like to speak? Seeing none, we'll close public hearing. I guess we have no questions.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Stevie.
I have a question on Fortuna's system. I don't know, would you be the person I'd ask? Has Fortuna ever considered opening up their senior and disabled bus to public?
It's interesting you bring up that question. That's one of the things Greg Pratt with HCOG has brought up. One of the things, it'd be a pretty heavy lift for the city to come up with a fixed route schedule and demand.
I'm not talking about a fixed route. I'm talking about just like call in.
Like a dial-a-ride?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that, because it opens up more funding that the bus service can bring in too. And I would say if we did something like that, still give priority and disabled priority, they could call in earlier and then you can get day of rides if the bus is open.
Yeah, I think it'd be a pretty heavy lift. I was just looking at the dial-a-ride numbers, the subsidy, and what was it, Stevie, in your presentation? It looked like about $41 per trip was the subsidy for the dial-a-ride service. And so it's pretty expensive to provide something like that. So right now, the funding that goes into transit, whatever's not used for transit can go into other transportation purposes such as paving. And so, there's a high cost for dial-a-ride service. So I think at this point, it's more of a cost benefit. Would we get the value out of that? It'd be very expensive to do. And it's something we can consider, but it hasn't been a high demand need. I think more likely, how can we get people connected with our regional transit and get them to and from Eureka? Because right now it's pretty convenient with the HTA routes. And we are talking with Greg Pratt. He wanted to get the city involved with the Ride Humboldt. He's offered some of the card readers so we could do a quick scan of cards to pay and then include customers in the Ride Humboldt so if they scan it. So we're looking at some of those steps to expand what we're doing, but we're not making the step to expand between senior and paratransit yet at this point.
Okay, just curious.
Yeah, but we are considering options, and Greg has a lot of ideas how we can better serve the community. So, Greg is very involved at HTA with a lot of these transit items. So he's been really helpful in helping us consider some of those changes. But I think we're looking at smaller changes first and, how can we expand it and get people from our local to maybe a regional hub would be the next step we might look at, but we're not there yet.
Okay, thank you.
And Mayor, if I may add on to that, I just want to point you to the draft transit development plan, which is the short range transit plan that we're just wrapping up at HCOG. And that does have a section on Fortuna Transit and kind of lays out some numbers for what a scenario might look like of opening Fortuna Transit up to the public. So there's some numbers and data in there for how that might look.
Thank you.
No other questions? Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to forward comments received during the public hearing to HCOG for consideration of the transit needs assessment.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none. Okay, we'll move to the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor Trent. So we just have the upcoming meeting scheduled to review. Our next meeting will be on October 16th of the City Council, the regular time. Our next Planning Commission will be on October 10th. Our next Measure E meeting will be on December 19th, so quite a ways out. And our next Roner Community Recreation and Park District meeting will be this Wednesday, October 4th. And there'll be quite a few items for discussion, and we're seeing some movement on some of the funding alternatives for the pool. So it may be a good meeting to be at if you want to get an update on the Roner Community Recreation and Park District. And then the Fortuna Business Improvement District meeting next meeting is on October 24th at 8:30 a.m. here at City Council Chambers. Just a few things to report for my verbal report. One of them is, as I think many of the council members are aware, that we had the recent resignation of our Parks and Recreation Director, and so we're recruiting for that position. We're looking for somebody to fill in, and so we're advertising that open until filled. Similarly, we had some feedback about the council with the restructuring and the desire to see the community development director position filled sooner than later. So we're also advertising currently for that position as well. So I thought the council would want to hear about those two key department head positions that we're advertising for. Recently, last week, we submitted over the last 2 weeks, we submitted 2 grants. One of them for the state Reconnecting Communities Highway to Boulevard program, and then last week the Reconnecting Communities, the federal grant for Reconnecting Communities Neighborhood Access and Equity Program. So a lot of effort went into putting those applications together. If successful, they'd probably result in an award of somewhere between $46 and $50 million. So it's a pretty big deal. It's a very competitive program, so we're going to keep our fingers crossed. I appreciate the council providing funding to have some grant writers. They did a good job putting together a lot of the components of a grant application that staff might not normally do, really kind of trying to pull together the community information, demographics, and help us to pull the project description and benefits in a way that is concise and easy to read. So that was the first time we've worked with grant writers on as big a project as that. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes and how we can use some of the information and content for those on future grant applications that we expect to be coming up. So we got both of those submitted successfully. Let's see, one other thing. I've had an opportunity in the last week or so since the Parks Director's resignation to go over and meet with some of the park staff. And one of the things that I'd like to do is follow up with council and have a discussion about recreation. I've had communication with most, maybe not all of the council members, so I want to be able to communicate that in an open meeting. But I think it would be a really good time to kind of take a step back and look at our recreation programs, the benefits of those, and how we're thinking about our recreation program. So you'll be seeing a poll for a meeting time probably in the next week to try to you'll see an email this week for a couple potential times in the next couple weeks. And what I'd like to do is be able to have a workshop over in the rec hall and really have a discussion, because I think there's, we could benefit from a shared understanding of how those programs are running, what's happening, how those hours are being used, what the potential is. Should we be growing these programs, or should we be thinking about how tight can we keep them to the budget, or and so I think it would be good for the council to be able to discuss that with recreation staff and other city staff. So again, it won't be a big prepared presentation, but really just a workshop to kind of share ideas with recreation and hear from recreation firsthand of some of the things and the ways to think about our recreation program. So look for that to come up in the near future. And that's all I had for my
Support.
Thank you. Council reports. Councilmember Conley?
Thank you very much. As reported last meeting, that our meeting was canceled, so I don't really have much to report from the REDAC. But I know Apple Harvest is coming up. It's a good event. The fire department and CERT and some other local emergency agencies get together, and I know that's a good event down there. So if you have young ones, or if you just want to know more about how you can protect yourself from the next December 20th, head on down there, and they have lots of good information. Why are you shaking your head over there, Chief? You're going back down. Also, October marks Breast Cancer Awareness Month, so be your own advocate. That's all I can say to that, is don't always rely on doctors and time frames from insurance, but make sure that you're checking yourself, as it could be very important. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Losi?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I haven't had any meetings since the last one, but Wednesday I will be attending the Humboldt Transit Authority meeting Wednesday morning. And then today at noon, I attended the chamber meeting at the Monday Club and listened to a report from our mayor regarding the 12th Street and Kenmar interchange plans, and also from our second district supervisor, Michelle Bushnell, and some of the many things that she does to assist our city and our community, and has been doing that over the last 3 years. So we appreciated the update from her. That's all I have.
Thank you. Or Mayor Pro Tem Johnson? Oops, sorry. I marked you off right before I said your name.
It's okay.
Councilmember Mobley, sorry.
Mayor Trent sat in for me on the last FBID meeting. I was unable to attend. We did have an RCA meeting last Thursday. The only thing really I have to report on that is they did finally purchase property to start a new building, office building. So they're very excited. It's been a long time coming. That's all I have. It's at 805 3rd Street, just right down from where they're at now.
Okay, now Mayor Pro Tem Johnson.
Thank you. Well, we had no HCOG meeting last month because of lack of a quorum, and I think it was because a lot of us were in Sacramento for the Cal Cities Conference, and which was very interesting. We learned a lot. I saw a lot of people. Some of them were actually HCOG board members, which we know where they were at now. And we do have an HCOG meeting coming up in October, on the 19th of October. But a couple of things I picked up on while we were down there, because we're not down there just for a vacation. There was over 2,700 bills that were brought forward in the legislature. 900 of them passed, and roughly 700 of them will be signed. So to think that these things need to be tracked, followed, because you want to know how they're going to affect your city, for whether it's Fortuna or Sacramento, or pick which city it is, all these things will affect us. So I'm very grateful for the League of California Cities and the work that they do, and probably the same for CSAC and CalCog, taking care of those things. So I'm very grateful for that. But 700 bills, and in all different manner of ways, whether we get a shot clock on an application for battery storage, for large volume battery storage, or any other thing. Sounds real small for they have the change your email from Fortuna, ci.fortuna.ca.us to fortuna.gov. But you have to change all your stationery, how your servers work, your websites. It's a big, intensive thing, and it's not free. But it's one of the things that, as of right now, I think it's still unsettled. It hasn't been signed. It hasn't been vetoed. So it's just some of those things that has been done. A couple other things I learned was we hear a lot about how PERS is doing. Well, I on Friday morning, went to a section on that, and it's 72% funded, which doesn't sound great. But when you figure that after the big debacle, financial debacle, it was down to 60%. So it's come up quite a bit. And this last year, it averaged 5.8% return on investment, but over 10 years, it's averaging 7%, 7.1. So that's good. We hear a lot about divestment, changing how the investments go, not investing in petroleum industry or mining or timber or any of those things. Well, while we were there, the investment officer told us that divestment has cost the CalPERS pool $20 to $30 billion over the last 20 years. And it doesn't sound like a lot of money when you look at the whole pool, but ask Aaron what $20 billion would do. That's a chunk of money. And he did say that they have told the legislature that they have a fiduciary responsibility to get the greatest return on investment that they can. And that the legislature is not a fiduciary and they should not get their hands on this money because it doesn't belong to the state of California. So on that happy note, I'll finish my report.
Thank you. I also attended the Cal Cities conference. They had a lot of good classes down there, and it's really a good place to network with other cities and other councils. So you learn a lot about other cities, how they run their cities. That's one of my favorite parts of going to these big things. Mike reported on some of the classes. It's really fun to go to, and Chris also was there too. So it was a good meeting. And then I filled in for Chris. She was out of town for the FBID meeting, and I actually enjoyed it. I was on it a long time ago, and so if you ever need me to fill in, it was an enjoyable meeting. Apple Harvest is coming up. They have a lot of stuff happening. Downtown, there's 85 vendors that are going to be down there from 9 to 5. There's going to be a themed skate night that evening, a disaster fair down at the fire hall. There'll be Clendenin Cider Works has stuff going on. There'll be rides at Clendenin around the apple orchard. So that should be a fun and busy day. And then we also talked about for kids' movie night. They always have kids' movie night. Well, we don't have a theater anymore. So they've gotten creative. We are going to have kids' movie night in the pavilion, and it's going to be on December 8th. It's for kids only, and the purpose of that is so kids can go there and their parents can go shopping. And it's going to be from 1:30 to 4, and they're looking at Polar Express as the movie. And I enjoyed Michelle's presentation today, and I'm very excited to hear that she will be rerunning. She's done great things for our city, and I hope that she will be continuing and doing more of that. We work very well with her. And I think that's all for my report. You have one more thing? Okay, go ahead.
I just wanted to remind everybody that Wednesday from 7 to 9 at Starbucks is Coffee with a Cop. So we can go and meet with our police officers and see what they have to say, or if we have anything to say to them. 7 to 9 a.m.
Oh, Apple Harvest is this Saturday, October 7th. And then Sunday is the Veterans Breakfast down at the Veterans Hall, and I've been going to those. It raises money for the vets building and the vets, and they have a very good breakfast. It's only $10, and you get biscuits and gravy, eggs any way you want them cooked, sausage, bacon, pancakes, coffee, orange juice. I think that's the juices that they have, but it's a really good breakfast. So that's enjoyable too.
Is that all you can eat?
It's all you can eat. Yes. So I guess that's everything on our reports. And now we're going to adjourn to closed session. And closed session is public hearing pursuit sector, I can't read these numbers. Second. 54957 of the California Government Code titled Police Officer Lateral.
I make a motion, we adjourn to closed session.
Okay, adjourn to closed session.